5 dead, 9 injured in another mass shooting that mysteriously popped up on this Monday morning. And there's some details that are coming out about the shooter, but not many of them. Actually, most of the conversation is about the guns, but we'll talk just a bit about what's happening there, what the updates are, what our president is doing, and what this means going forward. In other news, shooting-related news as well. Oklahoma University issues an all clear after a report of an on-campus shooter that has no evidence of an actual on-campus shooter. So we'll talk just a bit about that and what I think that this actually means and what we do with this after we are, after all this is done. A major leak of classified documentation from the Pentagon rocks the intelligence community, and well, the intelligence community comes out to tell you that you're not allowed to report on what was in the leak. So we'll talk just a bit topically about what was in there, what this means, and where we go with that. And the FBI releases its guidance on what they use for online language to identify extreme online violence. It is definitely not based and not red-pilled. In fact, it might be very blue-pilled, and right there, I just landed myself on a list. It is going to be all this and more. We are based red-pilled and blue-pilled here. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got a jam-packed show tonight here. It was interesting because I had a bunch of stuff ready and prepped to go before I found out about the shooting today, and then of course that happened, and now we are just jam-packed with all sorts of new stuff, including a bit of online profiling about the shooter, some of the things about the victims. Not a lot of the mainstream coverage about the shooter, which kind of tells me that this is another leftoid out there somewhere, and they don't want us to talk about that. They just want us to talk about the guns. But we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking at length about that shooting. We'll be talking briefly about what happened at Oklahoma University on Friday night while I was on Clown World Chronicles, by the way. And do make sure you guys go check that out. I will be uploading an audio-only version of the stream from Clown World Chronicles to my YouTube and my Odyssey. So go and check that out. It'll be on my Rumble channel too, by the way. So go and have a listen to there. Papa Palpatine inviting me in. You know, from the sounds of it, and I don't know what the details were as to why he didn't have a guest on Friday night, but it sounds like the guest that he had scheduled had dropped out. So yes, we came in and I got myself a nice big fish fry between the shows, and went over and we had a great conversation. A little bit more vulgar than Contemporary. I will come out and say that. A little bit of content warning out of here. Don't listen to that one with the kiddies around. Because, yeah, I said a lot of stuff that I will not say on Contemporary because I do try to keep this AM radio friendly, but go check that out. And while we're at it, go check out great programming such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Porch Boys, go check out Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, The No Gimmicks Podcast, and Clown World Chronicles, which will be linked when the episode drops. So go check out all that great programming as we bring you a better news and culture experience from the common man for the common man. That is right. For too long, we have got all of our news, culture, and commentary from people who Wear suits that cost more than our houses, no more. Go check out all that great programming for people who have had to make some of the same decisions that we've all had to make before. People like you, people like me, people who understand how we feel about the news, politics, religion, music, movies, culture, and the whole lot of things here. There's a lot of great programming here. These are a lot of very, 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 very good people. I recommend making friends with some of these people if you have the opportunity as well. But with that, without further ado, let's talk a bit about finance so we can get that out of the way. And you guys can go bring some friends in as well. And then we will go in and talk about what happened in Louisville. We will start today with the Dow, which... Yeah, I did that again. How did I mute myself when I brought up the browser? I wonder what I did there, because I know I unmuted myself. What did I do there? That's crazy. How the hell did I manage to do that? When I hit the new scene. Because there's no reason that I would go over to that corner. I'll show you how the sausage is made real quick and try to figure out how I got over into that corner. So, and you'll see the picture-in-picture there for a second. Yeah, because I changed my scene over here. And then I don't know how, but somehow this got clicked over here, and I don't know what happened there. Because there would have been no reason for me to be over in this corner. Unless I did it at the top of the cold open. Which I remember, I thought I came off the cold open, didn't I? God damn it. Anyway, looking in at where we're at for gas prices. We are still holding at the 348s. So a little bit of reduction coming out here, because remember these two stations were both at 350. So is this one, by the way. They were all at 350 on the isthmus. We're at 334, which is a considerable drop. 348 entering the isthmus, and 350 at the BP on the other side of the isthmus, going out to the west side. We've got a few that are not reporting, which tells me they're probably still sitting at about 350 right now, and they're trying to push the traffic over to where it's 340. So that is where we came out, and that's where we're at. All right, let's get into IBD. Let's see what's happening there. I will check. I will look at that and see if there's a hotkey for mute. I thought I had all my hotkeys off, but I will go and check onto that after the stream. That would be an interesting one, because I canceled all the hotkeys because, well, I made that mistake once. All right, let's see what we have going on here from Investors Business Daily. Dow Futures key inflation data, big bank earnings due, Apple, Pioneer, Tesla, and Focus. From Scott Latonin. Dow Futures were a little changed ahead of Tuesday's open, with key inflation data due out Wednesday and Thursday. Meanwhile, first quarter bank earnings kick off later this week, and Apple, Pioneer, Natural Resources, and Tesla stock were in focus after big swings on Monday. On the economic front this week, inflation data is due out midweek. With the release of the Consumer Price Index and the Producer Price Index, Wall Street expects the CPI to rise 0.3 on the month in March with an annual rate of 5.2%. Meanwhile, first quarter earnings season starts off with JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo, and PNC Financial kicking off bank earnings, and Delta Airlines and United Health are the first airline and health insurer, respectively, to report for the first quarter. On Monday, the Dow Industrial Average rose 0.3, with Caterpillar and Dow being the big winners. Dow Chemical, not Dow Jones, obviously. Caterpillar rallied 3.1%, while Dow Chemical shares climbed 2.1%. The S&P gained 0.1%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq dropped less than 0.1%. EV leader Tesla traded down 0.3% on Monday. Pioneer Natural Resources surged 5.8% on reports ExxonMobil has held early takeover talks with the shale play. Among Dow Jones stocks, Apple sold off 1.6% and Microsoft dropped 0.8% in today's stock market action. 5 below, IBD leaderboard watchlist stock Floor & Decor, ServiceNow, and Vertex Pharmaceuticals, as well as Dow Jones stocks Boeing, Cisco Systems, and Visa, are among the top stocks to buy and watch with the ongoing market. Floor & Decor and Visa were featured in this week's Stocks Near Buy Zone column. On the futures, ahead of Tuesday's opening bell, Dow Futures, S&P, and the Nasdaq were little changed in overnight trading, even though overnight trading's only been going on for 2 hours. Remember, overnight action in Dow Futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate to actual trading in the next regular stock market session. The 10-year yield rose to 3.41% on Monday. Last week, the 10-year yield hit its lowest level since mid-September. Oil prices dipped on Monday as West Texas Intermediate futures settled just below $80 a barrel, which will be good news on the gas price front, by the way, until we all get railroaded from whatever it is that OPEC decides that they're going to do. All right, let's do the layoffs report, and then let's start in on the bad news of the day. From Boston Herald, actually. More layoffs at Biogen, part of ongoing restructuring. Latest rounds of cuts at Cambridge Biotech follow the elimination of nearly 900 jobs last year. From Jonathan Saltzman of the Boston Globe staff. Biogen, which slashed 885 jobs last year after the disastrous rollout of its controversial Alzheimer's drug Aduhelm on Monday, confirmed it recently eliminated more jobs, including those of employees who worked on its multiple sclerosis medicines. The Cambridge Biotech said in a statement that some of our colleagues in the U.S. were recently informed that the roles were being impacted as a result of decisions designed to optimize our business strategies and align our costs and revenue base. We appreciate our contributions of our departing colleagues. The firm would not say how many employees were laid off when it happened, but Biogen spokesman Jack Cox said the layoffs included employees who worked on MS drugs, long the company's biggest source of revenue. Biogen had 8,725 employees worldwide at the end of last year, down 885 from 9,610 the year before, according to securities filings. And now it looks like we're going to be down to 7,825. Its mass workforce has fallen sharply. It has about 2,300 employees in the state, according to company spokeswoman Allison Parks. That compares with 2,469 in the 2022 industry snapshot of the Mass Biotech Council and 2,800 in the group's 2021 report. The latest cuts were first reported by the Boston Business Journal, but hey, we're still holding somehow at 3.5% unemployment, so honk honk. And I don't buy that number for a second, because every single day I put in the layoffs report at this point, and I report 900, 1,000, 3,000, 1,800 jobs every single day that are going down the tubes. And yet the news media still wants you to believe that we are at 3.5% unemployment, and I don't buy it for a second. And oh, by the way, labor force participation is ticking up too somehow. Don't buy that one either. All right, well, our finance is over, and It's really sad when our finance is the best news of the day in this particular period. Raw's Alerts starts off with our shooting news today. Active shooter this morning in Louisville, Kentucky with multiple casualties. This morning, let me stop this for a sec because we'll actually watch this whole video here in just a minute. This morning around 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, police have responded to active shooter in downtown Louisville. As witnesses reported, a heavy gunfire could be heard out inside an Old National Bank. A total of 5 people have been killed, with 6 others injured. The gunman was killed by police, with reports he was reportedly live streaming it on social media site, reportedly Instagram, which is no longer available. Yeah, anything that goes against the narrative, they shut down in a hurry. Gentlemen, by the way, how we doing? Let's watch the video. Man, that does not look like that protects a lot. I'm going to watch that again just from the beginning because I want to see how prepped and how long this had been, or try to get an idea how long this had been going beforehand, because we see the Louisville police car right there behind the Cintas truck. Let's watch. So I'm guessing this is actually already well into the incident, just from looking at the fact that we've already got another squad inbound. There's one squad, 2 squad. This is the one that just came in inbound. Alright, so that is what we have there. Let's read on a little bit from WAVE, W-A-V-E, out of Louisville. LMPD, 4 dead, 9 injured, including 3 officers from downtown Louisville, shooting suspect dead. From Dustin Vogt in WAVE staff. The Louisville Metro Police Department confirmed 4 people have died from an active shooting in downtown Louisville near Slugger Field on Monday morning. LMPD and Louisville Metro Mayor Craig Greenberg advised everyone to avoid the 300 block of East Main, specifically at Old National Bank. Calls came around 8:30 a.m. to the Old National Bank on reports of an active shooter in the area. According to Metro Safe dispatchers, the call was changed to an active aggressor report a short time later. According to LMPD Deputy Chief Paul Humphrey, officers arrived on scene with Louisville Fire and EMS where active gunshots were being fired. Around 10:15 a.m., police said there's no longer an active aggressor threat and the suspected shooter has been neutralized. Shot. They mean shot. Humphrey said officers exchanged gunfire with the suspect, and the suspect died at the scene. On Monday afternoon, LMPD confirmed the name of the suspect as 23-year-old Connor Sturgeon. Sturgeon was employed with Old National Bank. LMPD Interim Chief Jacqueline Gwynn Villarreal said, "How much do you want to bet right now?" And I'm not even going to look, number one, because I'm not going to dox him or his family, but number two, that'll do nothing but interrupt the flow of the show. But how much do you want to bet that at this point, and this is, let's see, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 11 hours later, there is absolutely zero social media attributed to this person. There's no Facebook, there's no Instagram, even though he was supposedly streaming on Instagram. There's no Twitter. We can't see what political party he backed or anything else. I am willing to bet anything that there was just a massive scrub that went on his social media. The circumstances leading to the shooter's death have not been identified. Well, let's see. You have cop, all pointing guns at him. At some point, somebody's going to make a connection here. Sturgeon was confirmed as using a rifle during the incident because why wouldn't you go back and use a long-range focused weapon to shoot into the closest quarters possible? Something's always bothered me about this. Police confirmed 4 people died, and University Hospital confirmed 9 total patients were treated. Following Monday's shooting, 3 of the injured victims have been confirmed as LMPD officers. The names of the 4 people who were killed are Tommy Elliott, 63, Jim Tutt, 64, Josh Barrick, 40, and Juliana Farmer, 57. On Monday afternoon's update, Gwynn Villarreal said 3 victims are in critical condition, 3 in not-serious condition, and 3 victims have been discharged from the hospital. Of those patients, U of L Health said 5 of the 9 patients are being treated for gunshot wounds. Villarreal said the 2 officers exchanged gunfire with the suspect, were both injured. One was grazed on the left side, while the other had minor injuries to the elbow. Officer Nicholas Wilt is listed in critical condition and just graduated from LMPD Police Academy on March 31st. Wilt was struck in the head during the incident and recently came out of brain surgery. He is listed in critical yet stable condition, according to Gwynn Villarreal. I've been down there with the family and given my love and support, Gwynn Villarreal said. I've been with all the families today to show our love and support for them. If there's anything else they need from LMPD, I would be happy to provide that. Looks like we have Andy Bashir giving statements. And it's interesting, by the way, that Bashir, because, we had the gun control screaming an argument that wound up with a Democrat member being expelled after the insurrection at the Capitol. And now we already had one insurrection at the Capitol in Kentucky over transgender laws. And now we have another shooting in Kentucky, too. But let's listen to the governor. Let's see what he's got to say. Well, some of what he's got to say.
Police, again, at 8:30 this morning, approximately 8:30 this morning, Louisville Metro Safe received a report of shots fired and a possible active shooter at 333 East Main Street at the Old National Bank. Within 3 minutes of being dispatched, officers arrived on scene and encountered the suspect almost immediately, still firing gunshots. Officers exchanged gunshots with that suspect, and ultimately that suspect did die at the scene. We're trying to confirm if that suspect died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound or was killed by officers at this time. At least 2 officers were shot during this exchange of gunfire. One is currently in surgery at University of Louisville Hospital. At least 4 more victims were confirmed to be deceased inside the location, as well as 8 that are now currently being treated at the University Hospital. 2 are critical, one of those being the officer. We're currently working to identify all of the victims, work with their families for reunification, and provide services to the families and the victims. The investigation, I want to reiterate, is ongoing. This will be a long scene. It will take pretty much into the night. So I still ask that the public avoid the area. I want to reiterate that there is no active threat. We believe this is a lone gunman involved in this that did have a connection to the bank. We're trying to establish what that connection was to the business, but it appears he was a previous employee. It is clear from the officer's response that they absolutely saved people's lives. This is a tragic event, but it was the heroic response of officers that made sure that no more people were more seriously injured than what happened. We will continue to provide updates as soon as possible. We will have another press briefing following this at 3 p.m. today. I will turn it over to Mayor Craig Greenberg at this time.
All right, so that's the details as given by the LMPD. So we have there. I want to go into this live updates here because, well, we'll go up and see what the new post is, but I'll scroll back down to the Biden post because he has already had something to say about this, and that's part of the reason that I think that this is. I don't want to get so tinfoily that I say all these things are planned, but they're awfully convenient all the time.
We have breaking news. Police say there are multiple casualties.
Shut up, you. We know. Shooting suspect was going to be fired from job. So we know that. Suspect worked at the bank, was armed with a rifle. I wonder if it was a scary black rifle. But this one here, because the canned statement is there. He's already prepared. Like, the bodies aren't even cold yet. And the next question is when will Republicans do what I want them to do? And when will they act? So we've got the tweet here, and I think, yeah, we've got that over here itself. Jill, can I get started yet? Once again, our nation mourns after a senseless act of gun violence. Jill and I pray for the lives lost and impacted by today's shooting, man. Too many Americans are paying the price of inaction with their lives. When all Republicans in Congress act to protect our communities, man, come on, man. Intranick, who is a good follow on Twitter, if you're not already following Intranick, brings up a good point and says, did you completely denounce the actions of the leftists that did the shooting? So we have that. From the Blaze, Biden blasts Republicans in statement about deadly Louisville shooting, from Alex Nitzberg. After a shooter perpetrated a deadly attack at the Bank of Louisville on Monday, President Brandon criticized Republicans in a statement. A 23-year-old employee of Old National Bank perpetrated the shooting, which left 4 victims dead and others wounded. One of the wounded was a 26-year-old Nicholas Wilt, who had recently graduated from the police academy on May 31st. Louisville Metro Police Department Interim Chief Jacqueline Gwynn Villarreal said, "I just swore him in," she said. She noted that he had been struck in the head and that he had come out of brain surgery and was in critical but stable condition. Biden wasted no time blasting Republicans in a statement about the deadly shooting. Ashley and I are praying for those killed. What do you mean I'm not talking about Ashley? Jill? Oh, okay. Jill and I are praying for those killed and injured in the tragic shooting in Louisville, and for the survivors who will carry grief and trauma for the rest of their lives. We're grateful to the Louisville Metro Police Department officers who quickly and courageously stepped into the line of fire to save others. He did not write that, by the way. I know better than that. A strong majority of Americans want lawmakers to act on common sense. It's just common sense, man. We're not going anywhere. It's just common sense. Gun reforms instead, from Florida, North Carolina, to the House of Representatives. We've watched Republican officials double down on dangerous bills that make our school place of worship and communities less safe. It's unconscionable. It's reckless. And too many Americans are paying with their lives, Biden said in a statement. And by the way, we're only a couple articles in on this, and I can already tell you that this was a leftoid that did this. I don't know anything about this person. I know I've heard the rumors swirling, and we all have throughout the day. But even if I had not heard a single rumor, like if I'd have been so slammed at work I hadn't heard a word of this, and I was just finding out about this now, I would already know by this point that this was a leftoid. You know why? Because they didn't mention him. If this was a right-winger, if this was somebody who was on their radar, if this is somebody who consistently voted Republican, we would know, we would have social media posts already available, curated, and organized. We would be hearing about white supremacy, not guns. We would be hearing about dangerous extremism, and they would have said the word MAGA at least 10 times by this point. That's how I know this was a leftoid. A little bit more here. We are up to 5 here. 5 then shooting that was live streamed at Louisville Bank, police say. A 23-year-old bank employee armed with a rifle opened fire at his workplace Monday, killing 4, including a close friend of the governor, while live streaming the attack, authorities said. Let's be clear about this was, Craig Greenberg, the Louisville mayor, said. This was an act of evil of targeted violence. Funny, they won't say that about what happened at the Nashville school. The shooting, the 15th mass killing in the country this year, citation needed please, comes just 2 weeks after a former student killed 3 children and 3 adults at a Christian elementary school in Nashville, about 160 miles to the south. That state's governor and his wife also had friends killed at that shooting. Police arrived as shots were still being fired inside of Old National Bank and killed the shooter in an exchange of gunfire. Metro Police Department Chief Jacqueline Gwynn Villarreal said at a news conference. It's tragic to know that the incident was out there and captured, she said. We're hopeful that we can have the incident removed, that footage removed, because we don't want the rest of the world to see what actually happened. We want to control the narrative. Nine people, including 2 officers, were treated for injuries. A 26-year-old who graduated from the academy on March 31st was in critical condition, we know that. Andy Bashir said he lost one of his closest friends in the shooting in the building on East Main, not far from the minor league ballpark, Louisville Slugger Field, and Waterfront Park. These are irreplaceable, amazing individuals that a terrible act of violence tore from all of us, the governor said of the victims. So, that is their update on the 5th victim. The Daily Beast, of a surprising note, by the way. Number 1, I don't really care for the Daily Beast, so very surprising that I have them on Contemporary. But number 2, and this is more important, they are typically out there to profile the right-wingers. Louisville Bank Massacre suspect ID'd as varsity hoop star turned banker. From Josh Fiallo, Justin Rorlick, and Rachel Olding. The suspect in a Monday morning massacre at Louisville Bank has been identified as 23-year-old former varsity hoop star and finance grad turned banker who livestreamed the horrific attack. Jacqueline Gwynn Villarreal identified the suspect as Connor Sturgeon, who worked at the Old National Bank's downtown Louisville branch. Villarreal said Sturgeon was live streaming as he used a rifle to open fire at 8:38 a.m. in the Old National Bank building, which houses the bank and a variety of other businesses, killing 4 people and injuring 9 more, including 3 police officers. Sturgeon was killed after exchanging gunfire with officers. We know the victims. We read that. A former friend and teammate of Sturgeon's from Floyd Central High School in Floyd's Knob, Indiana, described Sturgeon to the Daily Beast as Mr. Floyd Central. Sturgeon was smart, popular, and a star athlete in high school track, football, and basketball. He said, I know everyone always says this about shooters, but I truly would have never expected it to be him, the teammate, who asked to remain anonymous, said. He said Sturgeon always wore a helmet during basketball games because he had suffered too many concussions. So we have a little bit of mental illness going on here. Or at least damage to the brain. The big thing I keep going back to is that in the first year of high school, we played football together in 8th grade. He was almost out most of the year because he had multiple concussions. Then he had a couple more in high school. I'm not saying it's the cause, but I always think back to that. There were times I'd wonder, will this catch up with him? But never in this way. He's the last person I'd expect would do this. After graduating in 2016, Sturgeon went to Alabama to chase that SEC frat life, the former friend said. He graduated there in 2020, the university confirmed. So, a little bit of profile with this one. And what to know about the 4 killed and the cop critically injured, from Teddy Grant. The 4 victims who were killed in a mass shooting at Louisville have been identified by police, as well as the 26-year-old police officer who was shot in the head while running towards the gunfire, which is extremely based, by the way. Let's see. The victims, Nicholas Wilt, 26. 26-year-old police officer Nicholas Wilt, who was shot in the head while responding, according to police. He graduated from the academy on March 13th. Juliana Farmer. Farmer was killed during Monday's shooting. This is a developing story. Check back for updates. So that's really all they have. And again, let's talk about this for a second. Now, the conversation steers us towards the fact that Mr. Sturgeon was about to get fired. Something tells me that there may have been some bullying that went on among his employees too, whether it be that he thought he deserved something more, something bigger, something... I don't know. But we have that aspect to everything. And the other end of this is the fact that, yes, now we have the concussion side of things for this. I don't know what drove Connor Sturgeon to go in and start shooting at his place of employment. I don't. It's a terrifying thought that somebody could go back and do that, but I mean, it's something that I've expected numerous times throughout my career. I mean, people thought that I was going to do something like that at one point because they were openly bullying me at my job. So again, and I don't know. We don't know the details of why he was being terminated yet at this point. I'd be really interested to see what happens when that comes out. I have a little bit of a working theory that went on with this. I'm going to be completely honest with you. At 26 years old, my guess, and hear me out on this, is that he decided he was into one of the other tellers. I don't know if he was a teller. No, it sounded like he was actually a personal banker, but like he was into a teller or something. And he went out and asked her out, and she laughed at him. If not, just outright told him, no. Get away from me. But then said girl also went back to HR and told HR that she felt uncomfortable about the fact that he had asked her out. And as we know, he was on his way to getting canned. I don't know if this is true or not. That's my working theory. That's what's kind of leading me down the road onto this one. But I know that this wasn't some right winger. I know that there was no white supremacy involved in this. I know that there was nothing like that. I know that because they haven't told us that. In fact, they've been focusing on the guns, the shooting. And we've got our regular crowd of morons coming out here talking about this. Of course, JoJo from Joy's! Oh, it's the guns! Oh, if there weren't any guns out on the street, then there wouldn't be any shootings. Just look at what happens over in Britain. And by the way, donate to my house fund. And I'm sure that Jersey, my wife's son, Reliant, has done something and said something. And whoever this new Victor She is that gets spammed into all of our feeds is another one who's probably out there. Well, we don't know it's the guns. We need to ban more guns. And, I mean, even Biden is out here screaming about, we need to ban the guns. And, again, this isn't the only shooting scenario that we're going to be talking about tonight. Because from this, we move on and talk about what happened at Oklahoma University on Friday night while I was on Clown World Chronicles. So, from KOCO5... University of Oklahoma issues all clear after reports of active shooter on campus. From Jonathan Greco. Authorities gave the all clear after an active shooter was reported Friday night at the University of Oklahoma's Norman campus. Police said no evidence of a shooting and no victims were found, which, by the way, did not stop the aforementioned Jersey, my wife's son, Reliant, and Victor She, and JoJo from Joy's, and all these others from coming out here and telling us that there's an active shooter, which means that it's the time for the guns. It's time to go out and ban the guns. And there's an interesting case about this. Bottom line, when I look at this, when I look at Biden's statement, when I see the fact that they actually took the time to fabricate a shooting, and we'll talk about why I believe this was a fabricated shooting, is I think that this is what they're going to run on for 2024. We need to have the majority. We need to have the House, the Senate, and supermajorities everywhere because it's time to ban the guns. And then pack the court and then ban the guns. 11:23 p.m. Friday update. The chief at the OU Police Department said there was no evidence that a shooting occurred and no injuries were reported. He said the incident might have been a false call. Listen.
Okay. All right. Yeah, at 9:24 this evening is April 7th, here on Friday evening. Shots fired call was called into the OU and to the Norman Police Department. We both responded along with multiple agencies from the area to include OHP, Cleveland County, Moore PD. No threats were found. We did a thorough search of the library and of the adjacent area and found no threats, no evidence that any shooting had occurred. So at this time, the campus is safe. And everyone who is possibly hiding or have sheltered in place can come out at this time. We appreciate the response from all the other agencies, the quick response, and things went basically as well as we think they could have. We are going to continue to look at our response and see if there's places we need to shore up, anything we need to add to our response, and see if we can continue to do things better. But at this point in time, we are very impressed and very proud of the way that we responded, and we're very glad that there are no casualties or no injuries to anyone.
Do you know if there was a fake?
All right, so there we have that. We've got video from a student. Let's listen to that.
Hey, Evan, we have a lot of cars behind us, law enforcement officers leaving now. I'm with Andrew Mitchie. He's been here for a while. He's a local Norman resident. He came here when he heard that alert because he was nearby. Andrew, what did you see whenever you were first here, all these cars?
So first, I really thought the road was closed, and I was really concerned, because I knew that what was happening based on what I'd seen on the news as well. And I did want to go ahead and check it out. First thing I saw as I approached straight down, I saw all these cop cars. I saw highway patrol. I saw state troopers. And a lot of cars, probably at least 20 police cars. but luckily they didn't have the sirens, so I figured they had it under control, you know.
What did you think whenever you got that all clear and you heard that message?
Yeah, once I heard that it was all clear, I mean, I didn't doubt him 1 second, because if you look at how huge the team is, they got great expertise, great training, and they're prepared for things like this. So I had confidence in them from the very beginning.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And we're going to continue to hear more. Hopefully we're hearing from OUPD.
So, we are in all clear for this one. Let's talk a little bit about what happened here. Shut up, you. From Channel 9 out of Oklahoma City. No call letters given. No evidence of shots fired. Shooting on University of Oklahoma campus. By News 9. An active shooter tweet from University of Oklahoma campus safety account Friday night prompted a huge response from law enforcement, and Twitter, by the way, and first responders near the North Oval on campus. As of 10:35 p.m., officers told News 9 the campus was safe. OUPD Chief Nate Tarver said the shots fired call was made at 9:24 p.m. Tarver said the initial call indicated shots were fired from the Bizzle Memorial Library. He added that the call was made to both OU and Norman Police, and that the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, and more police responded. Hundreds of law enforcement personnel responded to campus. The alert was, OU Norman emergency, there is an active shooter at the Van Fleet Oval. Take immediate action now. Run, hide, fight. A spokesperson for Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt said, we take things very seriously and are proud of Commissioner Tipton, OHP, and all involved law enforcement's immediate response and investigation on the scene. The governor's office also said that local, state, and federal law enforcement are working to identify the cell phones used to call the active shooter threat in. This is a developing story. And again, a big note to this was what actually happened. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have been up that late looking at Twitter that night had I not been on Palpatine's show. Because we had just finished off having the discussion, and I started looking over on Twitter while we were having after-show discussions and saw that it was going on. And again, this would have been, under normal circumstances, a local story. Until we actually started getting some bodies and a body count coming off here, under most any circumstance out of this would have been a local story. But somehow, in the span of an hour from when this became one of the most talked about national stories. And I haven't looked back on some of these accounts to see if there have been some deleted tweets off of this after they find out that there was no shooter, that this was just an active thing. I will probably go back and look at that after the show here, but we've got that. OU Daily, the Oklahoma University's local newspaper, reporting out, OU, FBI confirmed university was targeted by international swatting and active shooter 911 calls. That's what's making me start to think that this actually is some sort of agenda-driven thing, where they come out and scream active shooter and get the SWAT team out and get the university locked down. And, all of a sudden now all these big Twitter accounts, these big Dem donor Twitter accounts, are screaming about the active shooter and how much we need to come back and take the guns. What did you involve yourself in, Luke Wee? Do I need to scrape up bail money? This is from Jazz Wolf, by the way. OU President Joseph Haraz Jr. confirmed the university was a target of international swatting after reports of an active shooter on campus in an email Sunday night. In the email, Haraz said around 9:24 p.m. Friday, multiple 911 calls were made claiming there was an active shooter on campus near the South Oval and Bizzle Memorial Library. Officers were dispatched to the area but found no evidence of a shooting. Since then, the FBI assisted the university in investigating the incident and found it was a case of swatting, meaning false calls were made to law enforcement to trigger a large response. The FBI believes the calls were made from outside the U.S., though the investigation is ongoing according to the email. Thank you. Thank you for sharing on Twitter, Quest Fanning. Go follow Quest Fanning. Well, partially because everybody already does. If you're on Twitter, go follow Quest Fanning. I believe that is at Quest Fanning, isn't it? I think. I'll find out when I look at the notification in just a moment. Yes, at Quest Fanning. Easy. Easy peasy. I'm going to retweet that. Watch me do it. Well, you can't watch me do it because it's in my left-hand screen over here. OU is not the only school to have been targeted by swatting this year. Institutions in Pennsylvania and Utah had multiple instances of swatting this year. Almost 30 schools en masse experienced swatting on March 28th, according to reporting from the Boston Globe. Harrose wrote in the email that over 100 officers responded to the incident Friday, and an emergency alert was sent to the OU community less than a minute after the initial call. As relieved as we are that the incident turned out to be false, we recognize that the feelings of fear and anxiety that many of us experienced on Friday were very real, Harrose wrote. Shortly after the incident, students told the OU Daily they spent an hour and a half between the first alert and the all-clear message, scared and confused. Harrose wrote students should reach out to the campus counseling centers for assistance, as well as student life and student affairs team members. Faculty and staff should seek help through the Employee Assistance Program. And now a narrative starts to form. And we will skip the last KOCO one because basically we just talked about that from OU. Now why? And again, if we're in a situation like this, why? Why would they be so eager to come back out and make an incident like this? Unless there is an agenda to be formed. And just like the title card on the show tonight says, I think this is what they're going to run on. Republicans are unhinged, then they're allowing our kids to die. So allow us to take over law enforcement at the federal level and get rid of guns. I think that's coming down the pipes in their agenda statement. And that terrifies me because there are a lot of foot soldiers on the Democrat side that are going to fall directly into that. By the way, DLive is still broken. I should probably let everybody know that. I don't know what the hell is going on with it. But I was looking over at the monitor earlier on, and still it says unable to connect. Alright. In an interesting side of things that also seems to go along with the narrative that they're going to go back and try to force this into gun control territory, a Florida teacher was recently fired for instructing students to write their own obituaries before active shooter drill, says he's done nothing wrong. I don't know, dude, that's pretty fucking morbid, excuse my language. And of course he looks like that, too. That is a waste of a good beard right there. From Paul Saka. Evil mastermind Sam Hyde, that's right. Thank you, Grant. A Florida teacher was fired hours after instructing students to write their own obituaries ahead of an active shooter drill on campus. The teacher said he has done nothing wrong and doesn't regret the lesson plan. Psych teacher, Jeffrey Keene. Okay, this is starting to make sense. Psych teacher Jeffrey Keene gave the controversial assignment to 11th and 12th graders on Tuesday at the Dr. Phillips High School in Orlando. Keene asked students in his first period class to write their own obituaries. Well, that's ghoulish. Keene said he told the students that the lesson isn't a way to upset you or anything like that, although it probably did, which is probably why he got fired. By second period class, students had informed the teacher that school officials interviewed them about the assignment. A school supervisor came to the class to observe the lesson before the second period class. Keene said he gave students a disclaimer after one pupil became upset in the first class. Before the end of 7th period, Keene had been canned. Alright, this one fits. Good riddance to bad rubbish. A spokesperson for Orange County School District said in a statement, Dr. Phillips High School families were informed that a teacher gave an inappropriate assignment about school violence. Admin immediately investigated and the probationary employee has been terminated. Bye-bye! Alright, what else do we have? And just in case you think that there isn't enough crazy violence going on in the world, New Jersey Omar mosque stabbing, a suspect believed to be involved in another mosque attack. From Pilar Arias. The man charged with stabbing an imam at a Paterson, New Jersey mosque during morning prayer Sunday is believed to have been involved in another mosque attack just weeks prior, according to a report. Yeah, who could have seen that coming? Who could have seen that one? Sarif Zorba is charged with stabbing Imam Saeed El Naqib twice in the back, authorities said. Surveillance video obtained by Fox 5 showed that around 5:30 a.m. the men were praying at Omar Mosque on Getty Avenue when a man failed to return to the kneeling position, with the others instead rushing toward El Naqib. I thought you could only be harmful if you had a gun. Alright, we are going to move off of this here. We gotta talk about the CIA leak, which was going to be top story, or the intelligence leak rather, which was going to be top story until 8:30 a.m. this morning. Eastern time, of course. 7:30 Central. Can you imagine this? Because this would have been breaking while we were on air on Contemporary if we were still doing the morning shift. White House tells journalists they have no business reporting on leaked intel. But I thought the journalists were the only ones that were allowed to read the leaked intel. In fact, it was illegal for you to read any of the leaked documents. You had to wait for CNN to read it to you. From Daniel Shaitlin. The White House urged journalists not to report on what appears to be leaked Pentagon classified documents circulating online. John Kirby, the coordinator for the strategic communications at the National Security Council, made his case during a White House press briefing on Monday as the U.S. government scrambles to respond to what some suggest may be the largest breach of classified secrets since the Snowden saga. Which, by the way, again, I thought that the journalists were the only ones who were allowed to read that. And in fact, it was illegal for you to read it, so you had to wait for CNN to tell you what to think about it. Without confirming the validity of the documents, this is information that has no business in the public domain, Kirby said from the podium after facing repeated questions about the documents. Let's listen. And then we'll find out what's actually happening with this, which is both phenomenal and terrifying at the same time. Let's listen to John Kirby.
Again, without confirming the validity of the documents, this is information that has no business in the public domain. It has no business, if you don't mind me saying, on the pages of front pages of newspapers or on television. It is not intended for public consumption, and it should not be out there.
Well, neither should you, but we still let that happen. The Pentagon released a statement on Sunday saying the Department of Defense is working to assess the validity and national security impact of images that have been popping up in recent weeks on social media, starting with Discord, showing what appears to be secret details about China, the war in Ukraine, surveillance efforts, and more. U.S. officials engaged with the allies, partners, and Congress about the disclosure, the Pentagon added. U.S. defense official told the Washington Post, "Where democracy goes to die in darkness." Many of the documents look like they were prepared for General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and other senior military officials, but stressed that these records would be available broadly to people with proper clearance. The source of the apparent leak remains unclear, but the Department of Justice has opened a criminal investigation into the matter following a referral from the DoD. Kirby, a retired Navy Rear Admiral, which is about the most hilarious rank in the Navy. How do you go back and tell your colleagues this one? Yes, I am a Rear Admiral. You know what I'm captain of. Or admiral of, I should say. Confirmed their suspicion that at least some of the images of the documents have been doctored. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's just say it's all doctored. Let's listen.
Okay. Thanks, John. If we can start on the classified document leaks. Has the president been briefed on this breach, and does the U.S. government at this point have any sense of who was behind it?
The president has been briefed. He was first briefed late last week.
That's hilarious, by the way.
We all got word that.
Grant says, I wonder if the leaker will try to use the defense in Minecraft because the documents leaked in a Minecraft Discord server. Oh, he's a Rear Admiral of lower halves, all right.
There were some documents out there, and he has stayed briefed and in contact with national security officials throughout the weekend. So he has been briefed. And as for the source, as you know, the Department of Defense has referred this to the Department of Justice for a criminal investigation, and I certainly would refer you to them, but I'm not aware that they've come to any conclusions at this point about where they're coming from.
And just to follow up on that, at this point, do you believe the leak is contained? Are there more documents out there that have not been released publicly? Is this an ongoing threat?
We don't know. We truly don't.
On Sunday, Israel pushed back on the alleged intelligence that said the country's Mossad intelligence agency encouraged protests against the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's controversial judicial reforms plan. The report was published overnight in the American press is mendacious and without any foundation whatsoever, said the Prime Minister's office in a Twitter post it claimed was on Mossad's behalf. Yeah, you can keep going and saying that kind of stuff, but Biden was briefed on the situation, and then he ate his bran muffin and went back to bed. So, what actually happened? What is it that they are trying to keep from you? We're going to read from Reuters. U.S. scrambles to trace source of highly classified intel leak from Idris Ali. Yes, our greatest ally, Grant. Classified documents that appeared online with details ranging from Ukraine's air defenses to Israel's Mossad spy agency have U.S. officials scrambling to identify the leak's source, with some experts saying it could be an American. Officials say the breadth of topics addressed in the documents, which touch on the war with Ukraine, China, and the Middle East and Africa, suggest they may have been leaked by an American rather than an ally. The focus is now on this being a U.S. leak. Many of the documents were only in U.S. hands. Michael Mulroy, a former senior Pentagon official, told Reuters in an interview, Oof. Well, I'm not a mechanic anymore, but yeah, I do still hate it when a tranny leaks. U.S. officials have said the investigation is in its early stages, and those running it have not ruled out the possibility that pro-Russian elements were behind the leak. What is that? Anybody who doesn't agree with you on the war in Ukraine? Pro-Russian? Really? Which is seen as one of the most serious security breaches since more than 700,000 documents, videos, and diplomatic cables appeared on the WikiLeaks website in 2013. The Russian embassy in Washington and the Kremlin did not respond to requests for comment. Following disclosure of the leak, Reuters has reviewed more than 50 documents labeled secret and top secret that first appeared last month on social media websites, beginning with Discord and 4chan. While some of the documents were posted weeks ago, their existence was first reported on Friday by the New York Times, a former newspaper. I wonder, and this is honestly, maybe I can go through Twitter and find this again, except I'm probably going to go pass out as soon as I get off air tonight. I went to bed at 11 and was roused back awake at 2:30, so that's why I'm a little bit low energy right now. But I legitimately have to wonder at this point, when are they going to come back and say, oh no, these are the documents that evil Donald Trump took away? I'm actually a little surprised that I haven't seen that one yet, because, I mean, some of these people are nuts. They really are. Reuters has not independently verified the authenticity of the documents. Some giving battlefield casualty estimates from the Ukraine appear to have been altered to minimize Russian losses. No, that's the actual real totals. Ukraine is getting their asses kicked. It's not clear why at least one is marked unclassified, but includes top secret information. Some documents are marked no foreign, meaning they cannot be released to foreign nationals. Well, surprise! Let's grab one from CNN. With an advertisement, fitness but better. Fitness with a left-wing bias, from CNN. Leaked Pentagon documents provide rare window into depths of the U.S. intelligence on allies and foes, from Natasha Bertrand and Kylie Atwood. Highly classified Pentagon documents leaked online in recent weeks have provided rare window into how the U.S. spies on allies and foes alike. Deeply rattling U.S. officials who fear the revelations could jeopardize sensitive sources and compromise important foreign relationships. Not only that, but the American people might find out how these people actually feel about them. Some of the documents which U.S. officials say are authentic expose the extent of U.S. eavesdropping on key allies, including South Korea, Israel, and Ukraine. We'll be talking about South Korea in just a bit. Others reveal the degree to which the U.S. has penetrated the Russian Ministry of Defense. Yeah, well, your spies are dead now. And the Russian mercenary organization Wagner Group, largely through intercepted communications and human resources, which could now be cut off or put in danger. No, they're not being put in danger. They're dead. Well, I take that back. They might not be dead. They might be being waterboarded right now. Still, others divulge key weaknesses in Ukrainian weaponry, air defenses, and battalion sizes, and readiness at a critical point in the war. An indication that this might be intentional, based on the fact that it is getting really, really unpopular to be in war again. If these are actual files, then they already know who it was. All the ways of getting the stuff off the computers is tracked to specific people. This doesn't work like they're pretending it does. Huh. Why was Manning so findable? Oops, she goes by womaning now. Oh, excuse me. I like that. That was funny. Ukraine has already altered some of its military plans because of the leak, a source close to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told CNN. The Pentagon has stood up an interagency effort to assess the impact of the leak. Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said on Sunday. The DoD continues to review and assess the validity of the photograph documents that are circulating on social media sites and that appear to contain sensitive and highly classified material, Singh said in a statement. An interagency effort has been stood up focused on assessing the impact these photograph documents could have on U.S. national security and on our allies and partners. Well, you might be out an ally now. We'll be talking about South Korea in a bit. The leak has also led the Pentagon to take steps to tighten the flow of such highly sensitive documents, officials said, which are normally available on any given day to hundreds of people across the government. The Joint Staff, which comprises the DoD's most senior uniformed leadership that advises the president, is examining its distribution lists to look at who gets these reports. A defense official said many of the documents had markings indicating that they would be had been produced by the Joint Staff's intelligence arm known as J2 and appear to be briefing documents. Interesting. Leaked secret Pentagon documents lift the lid on U.S. spying in Russia's war in Ukraine. From Dan DeLuce, Kevin Collier, Philip McCausland, and Ken Delanian. And by the way, these leaks were weirdly and oddly covered up by a shooting that happened in Louisville today. Reminder, this was supposed to be top story today. NPC News has obtained more than 50 of the leaked documents, many of them labeled top secret, the highest level classification. Oh, didn't you know that John Kirby told you you're not supposed to do that? Naughty, naughty. The full impact of the leak remains unclear, but it could represent the most serious breach of U.S. intelligence secrets since Edward Snowden passed on thousands to journalists about the U.S. electronic surveillance in 2013. But they don't have a lot of what's going on with the actual espionage in the NBC article here. Some of the highlights from the documents: Russia's private mercenary outfit, the Wagner Group, has sought to purchase weapons from NATO member Turkey as well as from Mali. The group is also considering recruiting more convicts for the war in Ukraine, according to the document, citing signals intelligence. Some documents include satellite images of damage to various targets from Ukrainian strikes in February. A strike on an assembly area caused severe damage and was carried out with the help of U.S. intelligence, the document said. Yeah, this actually might spiral us into hot war with Russia. The battle for Ukraine's Donbas region is most likely headed for stalemate through 2023, exhausting Russian units and frustrating Moscow's war aims. According to an assessment based on signals intelligence and National Reconnaissance Office satellite and commercial satellite imagery, a document said. A document marked secret examines why Ukrainian bombs equipped with U.S.-made guidance systems, known as Joint Direct Attack Munitions, or JDAMs, have failed recently. It speculates that bomb fuses were not being armed correctly, and that GPS signal issues potentially caused by our Russian jamming efforts could be at play. A February 20th document assesses pathways for Israel to provide lethal aid to Ukraine, providing hypothetical situations, in Minecraft, just like we were saying earlier, that might drive Israel from its balancing act between Kiev and Moscow. Marked secret, the document also suggests that what Israeli weapons could be transferred to Ukraine, such as Israel's Javelin equivalent, and other missile systems. The analyst says the most plausible scenario is that Jerusalem adopts a Turkish model under U.S. pressure, like Ankara. That would mean that Israel sells lethal defense systems or provides them through third-party entities, while openly advocating for peace and offering to host mediation efforts, kind of like we're doing, except without the third party for us. Alternative scenarios consider how Moscow's support of Iran's military programs or proxy efforts in Syria could drive Israel to provide Ukraine with lethal aid. South Korea has concerns about providing artillery shells to the U.S. to replenish America's supplies, as officials worried that the ammunition would end up with Ukraine's military, according to documents citing signals intelligence. So there is some heavy stuff here with this one. And depending on how this goes next, this is going to change the track of what's happening in the Ukraine, possibly what happens with Taiwan. And also, when did Ankara become the capital of Turkey? Has it always been that way and I'm just a moron? I thought it was Istanbul. because that used to be Constantinople. But now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Yeah, it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. I don't know, that's nobody's business but the Turks. The BBC weighing in on this one. Ukraine war. Who leaked the top secret documents and why? From Paul Adams. What to make of the dozens of classified U.S. Defense Department documents, maps, charts, and photographs circulating online. Complete with timelines and dozens of impenetrable military acronyms, the documents, and some of them marked top secret, paint a detailed picture of the war in Ukraine. They tell the casualties suffered on both sides, the military vulnerabilities of each, and crucially, what their relative strengths are likely to be when Ukraine decides to launch its much anticipated spring offensive. Oh. So when it stopped being Constantinople, and now it's Istanbul. How real are these printed pages unfolded and photographed, possibly on someone's dining room table? And what do they tell us, or the Kremlin, that we did not already know? First things first, this is the biggest leak of secret American information on the war in Ukraine since Russia's full-scale invasion 14 months ago. Some of the documents are as much as 6 weeks old, but the implications are huge. Pentagon officials are quoted as saying the documents are real. Information on at least one of them appears to have been crudely altered in a later version, but out of a dump of as many as 100 documents, that seems a relatively minor detail. Uh-oh, Instagram is reconnecting. I lost some of my internet over there. I still have it over here. BBC News has reviewed more than 20 of the documents. They included detailed accounts of the training and equipment being provided to Ukraine as it puts together a dozen new brigades for an offensive that could begin within weeks. It says when the brigades will be ready and lists all the tanks, armored vehicles, and artillery pieces that are being provided by Ukraine's Western allies. But it notes the equipment delivery times will impact training and readiness. One map includes a mud-frozen ground timeline assessing ground conditions across eastern Ukraine as spring progresses. After a winter that's tested Ukraine's air defenses to the limit, there's also a sobering analysis of Kiev's diminishing air defense capability, as it seeks to balance its limited resources to protect civilians and critical infrastructure and its frontline troops. So, that seems to be the big thing, is what's happening here and whether or not this is a major incident that will change the way that the Ukraine war goes. So that's what we have for that. On the South Korean front, and then we'll move on to more warmongering. South Korea will demand appropriate measures after Pentagon documents leak. From NBC News. Dan DeLuce and Stella Kim and Megan Leibowitz reporting South Korea will demand that the U.S. take appropriate measures once the investigation into leaked Pentagon documents detailing U.S. intelligence has concluded, a South Korean senior government official said in a briefing. The comment comes as leaked classified defense documents posted online revealed U.S. intelligence gathering on allies, including South Korea. The South Korean official also cast doubt on the legitimacy of the documents, saying there are suggestions that some of the information might be fabricated. A senior U.S. official has also said some of the documents may have been altered. In response to the leak, the Pentagon official said the Defense Department is assessing the validity of the documents, and an interagency effort is assessing how the leak could affect the national security and relationship with allies. Over the weekend, U.S. officials have engaged with allies and partners, have informed relevant congressional committees of jurisdiction about the disclosure. said Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh in a statement. South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol has been invited to address Congress and meet with President Biden later this month. The U.S. and South Korea have strong military ties and frequently conduct joint training. Well, again, we'll see if that continues, because I haven't seen what the documents are for South Korea, but from the sounds of it from the CNN article, they're not good. Let's talk about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, warning of Russian and Chinese expansionism, says he'd be very much open to using U.S. forces to defend Taiwan, sugar. From Catherine Tankalakis-Lippert. Senator Lindsey Graham on Easter struck a somber tone in an appearance on Fox News Sunday, warning of Russian and Chinese expansionism, saying the U.S. needs to up our game in preparation for global military moves coming this year. Graham, a GOP senator from South Carolina, said the problem is Putin and it's Xi, referring to the leaders of Russia and China, who he says are emboldened by the U.S. botched withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. Oh, sugar, I think they're setting the stage for possibly a blockade of Taiwan, and the Communist Chinese Party is going to test us dramatically this year and next year before the election, Graham told the outlet. In 1961, the Russians tried to isolate West Berlin, so I'm fearful that the Chinese may be setting conditions to blockade Taiwan from the coming months or weeks, and we need to respond forcefully if they do that. That force, Graham said, should include aggressively training Taiwanese forces so they can fight like Ukrainians, putting nuclear-tipped missiles back in our submarines. Yeah, he went there. And we know that Graham is into more than just the tip. Oh, shut up, Lindsay, says Xi Jinping. Hang on. Get rid of that. Let's see. Sending F-16 jets to the country, and if need be, troops to defend the island nation. I'd be very much open to using the U.S. forces to defend Taiwan, because it's in our national security interest to do so, Graham said, citing a large supply of high-end microchips created in Taiwan and the risk of allowing China to take control of that technology. He added, I would up our game, and if you don't want your game now, you're going to have a war. So, Lindsey Graham is going to continue to warmonger. Yeah, he's more of a catcher. Politico comes on to continue, says Lindsey Graham warns of crisis unfolding over Ukraine. Or Taiwan, rather. From Greg Svirnovsky. Lindsey Graham on Sunday openly voiced fears about a potential Chinese blockade of Taiwan, a test to the U.S. he said could line up with the run-up to the 2024 election. Taiwan's not the problem. Lindsey Graham's not the problem. It's a Putin and it's a Xi, referring to leaders of Russia and China and their expansionist aims. But an increased American presence in the region, he said, could allay threats from the emboldened duo and also get Lindsey Graham a little bit more money from Raytheon. They came after Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen traveled across the U.S. as part of a 10-day international tour, meeting with House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries in New York before jetting off to speak with Kevin McCarthy and other key House foreign policy cogs outside of Los Angeles. Out of here? Bye! It's a trip that's resulted in fierce pushback from Chinese officials who have sanctioned the two organizations that hosted her during the trip, the Hudson Institute and the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, and labeled the visit a provocation. How do you sanction the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library? What? Does China do a lot of business? I just saw that out of the corner of my eye, Grant. That is hilarious, and also so wrong on so many levels. And now, a 3-day spate of military exercises, a stern warning is put by the People's Liberation Army officials that are to end on Monday. Taiwan's defense ministry counted 71 Chinese warplanes that crossed the Taiwan Strait on Saturday alone. So, well, it looks like we're going to go to war and proxy war in Taiwan. And while Lindsey Graham isn't going to be leading the charge because he won't go to the front lines, he will be the one rallying the troops. Thank you, Lindsey Graham. Finishing off on our Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham said it would be incredibly stupid of China to give Vladimir Putin lethal weapons to use in Ukraine. From Cheryl Tett. Lindsey Graham said it would be stupid of China to give Russian President Vladimir Putin any weapons to use in Ukraine. And to you Chinese, if you jump on the Putin train now and I'm going to be jumping on a train later, you're dumber than dirt. It would be like buying a ticket on the Titanic after you saw the movie. Don't do this. That is about the dumbest analogy I have heard from a politician in a long time. And there is some competition to that too, by the way. Graham was commenting on Secretary of State Anthony Blinken's warning on Sunday that the Chinese might be on the brink of giving Russia lethal support in the Ukraine war. Such a move would be the most catastrophic thing that could happen for U.S.-China relations, Graham said. That would change everything forever, Graham said. During his appearance on ABC, he also asked the U.S. to designate Russia as the state sponsor of terrorism to ensure that China would be sanctioned. If it were to give weapons to Russia, the U.S. currently lists Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Syria as state sponsors of terrorism. I think the Bears go harder on Lindsey Graham, and I think that they use their Chinese dragon to do so. So that's going to be the next war. Coming back domestically, we got a couple from Keith Olbermann. But first, Justin Jones sworn back into Tennessee House days after GOP expulsion. From Cheyenne M. Daniels. Justin Jones has retaken his oath of office and been reinstated to the State House days after being expelled for joining a state capitol protest against gun violence. Well, good. If he does another insurrection, he can get voted his ass back out again. On Monday, the Nashville Metro Council voted to reinstate Jones after the GOP-controlled House voted to expel him and his colleague, Justin Pearson. As Jones was sworn in on the steps of the state capitol, a crowd of supporters gathered around him and cheered, mostly from out of state. Jones, who was the only nominee for the district's open seat, received unanimous support from the council, with all 36 members voting to reappoint him as an interim representative for the 52nd district. As the clerk read the 36 yeas, the council burst into cheers and applause. Jones, who was the only nominee for the district, moments after he was reinstated, Jones joined protesters, many who showed up in support of him, and marched back to the Tennessee state capitol to take his oath. Wait, if you march from one place to the Capitol, isn't that an insurrection? And by the way, isn't that inciting violence? But he is back in, but Olbermann, having the dumbest take in history, as usual, tells us what we need to do, or what the Tennessee National Guard needs to do. Or more clearly, what Biden needs to do with the National Guard. Let's listen.
The president must federalize the Tennessee National Guard in hopes of reestablishing democracy there. The state assembly has
That's a call for civil war, by the way, and this should be reported.
expelled 2 African-American legislators for having dared protest the slaughter of school children in their state. The expulsions were carried out in the most racist, condescending, fascistic way imaginable. And as Eisenhower and JFK sent in troops during school integration, Biden must do so as well now to protect integrated democratic government. Plus, after the ProPublica investigation, we need a Senate committee designed to get Clarence Thomas to resign or be arrested. He is a human for sale sign, taking millions from a GOP megadonor who regularly submits briefs to the Supreme Court. All that, and Alvin Bragg has a tape of the defendant talking hush money, lordy there are tapes, on the Friday edition of the Countdown podcast, available now wherever you podcast. The president...
Does anybody actually listen to Olbermann's podcast? And I say that, and I know that there are people out there who worship what this man says, and I don't know how or why. His choice in glasses are enough to make me not want to listen to him, but he's got more on Clarence Thomas too, by the way.
The president must federalize the Tennessee National Guard in hopes of reestablishing
this is the same
democracy.
video. Why is it up closer? I thought this was a different video. Never mind. We're not going to watch that again. But yeah, they've got to make a black man who doesn't vote the right way bad. All right. Back to the Daily Wire. Former bartender AOC says Biden should ignore court ruling. Do what she says, from Joseph Curl. And we have the clip. Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez, D-Twitch, graduated from Boston University in 2011 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in both international relations and economics. Maybe she should have taken Law 101. The bartender turned lawmaker on Sunday said President Brandon should ignore the ruling of a federal judge who on Friday suspended the 2-decade-old approval of the so-called abortion pill mifepristone while a legal challenge proceeds. So, this is my question. What is it that she exactly wants Biden to do? Now, I am in agreement with protests out there. I still think that it's terrifying that they're using a drug to slaughter the innocent. But I understand that they're going to find a way to do it and penny royalty still exists. I am pragmatic about this argument. As much as I hate the thought of abortion, it is more practical to me to conduct my life in a way that I don't ever have to have an abortion, and try to make sure that the people around me do the same thing. Or they either raise the kids if an accident should happen, or they just protect themselves in a way that an accident wouldn't happen anyway. But there are ways, like, this is still going to happen as much as it horrifies the rest of us. But it's not like Biden's going to be going down to the individual pharmacies and coming out and with a big scoop saying, Hey, come on, man, you get some mifepristone, and you get some mifepristone, man, and abortion drugs for everybody, man. Come on, man. AOC says Biden should just ignore the ruling. On Sunday morning's edition of State of the Union, host Dana Bash was blunt with the two-term lawmaker. Let's listen.
There has been thought, I believe, given to this. Senator Ron Wyden has already issued statements, for example, advising what we should do in a situation like this, which I concur, which is that I believe that the Biden administration should ignore this ruling. I think that the courts have the legitimacy and they rely on the legitimacy of their rulings. And what they are currently doing is engaged in an unprecedented and dramatic erosion of the legitimacy of the courts. It is the justices themselves, through the deeply partisan and unfounded nature of these rulings, that are undermining their own enforcement.
So you're saying the Biden administration should ignore this court, but what does that look like? What does that actually mean?
I think the interesting thing when it comes to a ruling is that it relies on enforcement. And it is up to the Biden administration to choose whether or not to enforce such a ruling.
But is that...
So yeah, and Grant had said the same thing. It's more about whether or not we do the enforcement of the ruling, and which, let's be realistic. If a pharmacy went out and still sold this thing, even though it's not legally FDA approved, Merrick Garland is not going to do shit. We know that. I know that. You know that. So basically, Cortez is just coming out here and saying, okay, puppy, just do what you're already going to do anyway, so... And you make sure that everybody can go get the mifepristone, okay, puppy? I mean, they're already going to do that. They're already just going to ignore it anyway. Selective enforcement. He learned it from Barack. Cortez joins with Warren to go after the rich. From CNBC, Warren and the Honorable and Venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez press top Silicon Valley Bank depositors about any cushy treatment they received. From Chelsea Cox. Where do I want to stop? We're going to do this one and these last two here. And then we will start fresh with what the LP has to say about the FBI, which is never anything good. This is from Chelsea Cox. Then we'll go through and I'll look through the live chat for today, which you guys have been busy today, so we've got a lot to do. I've read some of it already, because I've been doing it intermittently throughout the show. Two top progressive lawmakers questioned whether Silicon Valley Bank offered its largest depositors unusual cushy treatment 1 month after the institution collapsed and sparked a broader damage to the banking system. Okay, I don't have to question them to know the answer to that. Of course they did. That's like basic business. Do you know why they did? I know why they did. You probably know why they did too. Because they want those people to come in and put their funds into Silicon Valley Bank. That's like basic supply and demand. In letters to depositors dated Sunday, Elizabeth Warren and the Honorable and Venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez, D-Twitch, saw details on what they call the cozy relationship between SVB and 14 of its biggest depositors. Among those who were sent letters are Roblox CEO David Baszucki, BlockFi CEO Zach Prince, and Roku CEO Anthony Wood. Silicon Valley's unusually cozy relationship with its clients increased the threat of contagion when the bank went under. Husband, will you get me a beer? I'm going after the rich. The American people deserve to know how these mutual back-scratching arrangements developed and who benefited from them, and what role they played in Silicon Valley's failure. Of course they gave cushy relationships and bonuses to top depositors. You know why they did? Because if they didn't, their competition would have, and their competition also did, by the way. Dude, everybody knows that. That's not even a mystery, yo. So, there you go. Liz Warren and AOC. From the Daily Wire, boy meets Congress. Ben Savage's former castmates weigh in on his campaign. From Virginia Cruta. Actor Ben Savage has announced a run for Congress in California. Now his former Boy Meets World castmates have revealed what they think about his political future. During last Wednesday's episode of Pod Meets World podcast, actors Will Friedle, Ryder Strong, and Daniel Fishel began with a discussion about an episode of the 90s hit in which Corey Matthews ran for class president. That discussion quickly dovetailed into the most recent example of life imitating art and Savage's congressional campaign. Fishel, who played Savage's on-screen love interest Topanga Lawrence, moderated the discussion and posed questions first to Friedle, who would play the role of Savage's older brother Eric. Will, what'd you like to say about Ben Savage running for Congress, she asked. Friedle made it clear that it wasn't a topic up for discussion and not for reasons having anything to do with Savage. I will say what I say anytime anybody asks me to publicly speak about politics, which is I do not publicly speak about politics. I think Friedle is a little bit base too, by the way. Just a little bit. Not based on what his politics are, but based on other statements I've heard of what he's had to say before. I think. I can't be for sure about it, because he is Californian, after all. It's just the way I was raised. You don't talk about politics, you don't talk about your sex life. Whoops. You don't talk about how much money you make, you just don't, Friedle explained. I do all my talking in the voting booth, and I have since I was 18, and that's my answer. Ryder Strong also declined to make an endorsement, saying that while he understood the public's fascination, he wasn't ready to endorse a political candidate based on the fact that they worked together as teens. He went on to say that unless things had changed, they might not agree on the issues anyway, which is interesting again. Look, man, when we were younger, Ben and I basically didn't agree on much politically. We often found ourselves on the exact opposite sides of almost every issue. Now the important thing is to state that we were teenagers, and it was 1993 through 2000, so maybe a lot has changed. I'm not going to endorse Ben simply because I had the same job as him when I was a teenager. Danielle pointed out that she couldn't vote for Savage even if she wanted to because she lived in a different district. That said, she added, I think it's very important to figure out what our individual priorities are, and you look for those things that mean the most to you and try to find a leader that aligns with your values as closely as possible when you support that person. So this is interesting to me, and I think this is part of the reason that Daily Wire picked this up, is because basically all three of the people that knew Ben Savage when he was the youngest and forming his political opinions refused to say whether or not that they would vote for him. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, their silence tells me a lot about what it is that he would do in this situation. It's both the fact that they won't come out and endorse, but they won't come out and denounce either, because they'll probably get canceled if they will. Ben being a very aggressive progressive Democrat in a very progressive district, so... And all three of them, I'm thinking, hoping, probably want to continue at least some sort of a career somewhere. And the last one, then we will do live chat, comes to us from Daily Mail. Biden is planning to recruit an army of TikTok influencers to help burnish his 2024 re-election hopes by pushing what he claims are his admin's successes. Basically, this is We Are the World, TikTok edition. And I am not looking forward to that. From Niren Gray Desai. Joe Biden is planning to recruit an army of TikTok influencers to win over Gen Z voters during his 2024 re-election run. The president's digital strategy team is connecting with social media celebrities and offering them their own briefing room in the White House, Axios reports. Among those recruited is Henry Sisson, a 20-year-old NYU student who runs a TikTok page with more than 600,000 followers. 590,000 of them are bots, by the way. He offers commentary on U.S. politics and regularly promotes the power of Gen Z to boost support for Democrats. Other recruits include Vivian2, 29, another TikToker, and Heather Cox Richardson, 61, who writes a popular newsletter on the blogging platform Substack. It comes as the Biden admin has endorsed the Restrict bill, which proposes a total ban on severe restriction on the reach and power of Chinese-owned TikTok. As tensions with China have grown, an increasing number of Democrats have joined the Republicans in calling for such a law. No, that is not true. That is not even remotely true, and I have read the Restrict Act, by the way. That is not even 100% anywhere close to true. It is a sweeping bill that gives the government power to control both domestic and foreign, especially foreign, but also domestic social media, to make it all state approved. Henry Sisson says, Republicans should be terrified of Gen Z and young voters. Let me grab this one from Harry Sisson here. Also, let me get a timestamp from this. 1:07 a.m. April 6th, so we might have to go back a while. I don't know if we're going to be able to or not. This might not work, because that was 4 days ago. They're all panicking about World War III still, which, by the way, I did not put that on the stack for the day. April 6th. There we go. Oh, this video, I watched this. This is so stupid. Republicans should be terrified of Gen Z and its young voters. Meanwhile, this moron can't even brush his own hair.
What Republicans don't understand about Gen Z is that we're here to stay and we're only getting more powerful. In 2020, President Biden won because of young voters. In 2022, Democrats expanded their majority in the Senate because of young voters. In 2023...
I fear to say this because I also need acoustic panels, but I don't have 500,000 followers or a blue check either. Dude, you need acoustic panels. Ask your 124,000 people to each pitch in $1 and get yourself an acoustic panel. I'm still on the small end, and I recognize that.
Wisconsin now has a liberal Supreme Court because of young voters. And we're going to do it again in 2024, and that should terrify the Republican Party. What Republicans don't understand about Gen...
Honk! Like I said before, I am not looking forward to this edition of We Are the World. So question number 2, and this was brought up in a Twitter discussion that I had about this when it showed up. When I quote tweeted the Disclosed.tv tweet about that. Is this not an in-kind campaign contribution? Can I see an FEC filing for this? Can I see a monetary value attached to this and see if it falls within FEC guidelines? Because I'm pretty sure that this is campaign finance violation. In fact, I am almost positive this is campaign finance violation. Especially with the fact that he's giving them a lavish office to work out of to do this. FEC, I think somebody needs to go and look into this. All right, let's finish out the day here because I'm hungry. I'm exhausted. Like I said earlier, I did go to bed at a decent hour last night. I had a snack around 10, and then I went to bed shortly after that. And I don't know what it was that roused me awake, but at 2:30 in the morning, I was awake, and I was awake for the night. So by the time I got in and watched a little bit of Mrs. Maisel, which is probably going to wind up on things that I like this week. Yes, I know. It's a oorah, she hero and you go girl kind of feminist thing, but honestly, looking at life fall apart outside of Mrs. Maisel's control, with things that were happening above her and beyond her, and still making her way out of it, I do feel a little connection with that character. I do. because it kind of reminds me of what happened to me in my 20s. Different kinds of situations, but the same kind of no control aspect of that. All right, let's look at the live chat for the day, and let's head out of here for the day. Throw some music back up. Beats to build decks from the Blizzard card game Hearthstone. Oh. Alright, let's scroll up here. Let's see what we got. I did read a lot of this too, so. Randy is here. Randy Crush Saga. I wish the left would adopt the term blue pill. I do too, actually. Grant pointing out that I lost sound, which I don't know what happened there, because like I showed you at the top of the show, the scene change and the volume control are on completely opposite ends of the control panel. I don't know how I bumped the volume control when I changed scene. And he said, and I thought it was just when I came back from the title card, but Grant said it happened when I brought up the browser. So when I changed that scene, it seemed to be when it happened. And I will look to see if I have a hotkey there too, by the way. That's a good suggestion, Grant. Thank you. Luke Wee is here. Silentcaster's here. Clearly they expelled those lawmakers of Tennessee because they were black. Or at least that's what CNN would tell you. Well, one of them's back. It's the evil Republicans, that's right. And don't worry, Biden has a fridge full of chocolate ice cream. He let us know that after the shooting in Tennessee. Yeah, the Kentucky shooter, he's a mega. Or he would be if we knew about it. Luke Wee decided to involve himself in something he didn't need to be, which makes me wonder again, do I need some bail money? Do I need to jump over the border? Do I need to go and protect someone? Silentcaster with his disapproval of Twitter. Can Twitter just die already? It's so awful. Yeah, but again, it makes a really, really good advertising platform, so I'm going to keep mine around for a little while. Quest Fanning came in and joined us tonight. Shared us on Twitter too. No, I was talking about that kid that said that when he heard about it going down, he decided to... Oh, okay. In the Oklahoma University thing. Okay, I get what you're saying. Yeah, that is a bad thing. Silentcaster says, Republicans want your kid to die. We just want to mutilate them and subject them to sexual misconduct. Quote, the Dems. Grant says, all these shootings are a conspiracy by the evil mastermind, Sam Hyde. Yep. Quest says, the psych teacher is a sick puppy. He should know better. That should happen more often. Don't let the door hit them in the ass. Hi, Proby. Because he was probationary. And yeah, that's the unfortunate side, is that so many of these teachers that would do something like this are protected by the teachers union. You would not get away with this in a private school. Grant says, I wonder if the leaker will try to use the defense in Minecraft, because the documents were leaked on Minecraft server. I bet John Kirby is Rear Admiral, lower half. Oh, it's lower half, all right. Between John Kirby and Lindsey Graham, who do you think is the upper half and who do you think is the lower half? Randy says, if these are actual files, then they already know who it was. All the ways of getting that stuff on computers is tracked to specific people. This doesn't work like they're pretending it does. Quest says, that why Manning was so findable. Oops, she goes by Womaning now. Huh. A turkey high on Molly. I wonder how that would go. And then Grant took my joke seriously about Istanbul and Constantinople. I actually didn't. I knew that Ankara was the capital, but for whatever reason, it's like the. It's like the Berenstain Bears thing. You swear that something was the capital. I actually thought Savannah was the capital of Georgia for the longest time. I didn't realize it was Atlanta. And I've been to Atlanta. Well, Atlanta adjacent, I should say. Grant says, too many leaks from the Pentagon. Major, major, major. General Milley and others probably didn't use tampons and pads, right, to stop the leak. Oof. Grant says, Lindsey Graham getting his own expansionism over Russian and Chinese expansionism. Chris Fanny says, shut up, Lindsey! Xi Jinping. That's what she said. I didn't catch that before. I didn't catch that till I said it out loud. Grant says Graham wants to go hard over international insertions. Plus says he's more of a catcher. The Mogwai is here, says there's a reason you don't hear Lindsay gagging. You guys are on fire tonight, I like that. Lindsey Graham wants to deploy the seamen. He's a kind of a Navy man then, huh? Quest Banning took off for the night. Take care. Grant says Lindsey Graham likes taking a spanking from dictator strongmen. And Mogwai got into it too. Says Lindsey will handle the rear. Do you think Lindsey goes harder on Russian bears or Chinese dragons? I weighed in on that earlier. That I can't do on YouTube. That's a step too far. I can't do that one. Grant says Olbermann is just a legacy version of Brooklyn Dad at this point. Yep. Mograi says, I thought he was dead. Oh, maybe it was just his career I heard about. Did you see O'Keefe's Media's video in Wisconsin? I saw that you put that in there. I didn't put that on the stack because I did get slam-a-jammed at work today, and I have not had a chance to look at it. Like, I saw it this morning before I went to work, and I have not had a chance to listen to it, so I don't even know what's going on in it. Yeah, Grant says Olbermann is basically no different than the paid Twitter shills at this point. And then, we talked about that. She wants Biden to ignore the ruling and not enforce the ruling. All I hear are horse noises. And Grant will finish out the day and says Merrick Garland already does this on a lot of laws. All right, we're out of here. No, I'm not going to go touch the volume button, no, the mute button. But I will touch the outro music. Guys, go check out Video Game Study Lounge if you like what you heard on the background here. It is probably one of the better ones, and the fact that it's no copyright just makes it easier to throw a little bit of music on, especially if there is a little bit of dead air or something, just to soak it back up. So, otherwise, we're going to be out of here for the night. Thank you, everybody who came by, hung out, chatted in the live chat. We'll be back here tomorrow night to finish up the last of what we didn't get to tonight. I always say that, and we never do, but we'll go in and look at some of some of what we have left over from last night, and look at what happens in the next 22 hours. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing you guys here, and we will also do the rules of acquisition tomorrow night at the end of the show. Looking forward to that, and watch the channel to see the Clown World Chronicles video and audio brought back up. I just basically recorded over a screen of the Contemporary logo, but that's what we have for that. So we will see you then. Be good, be safe, have a great night, say hi to your family, and we will see you here next time. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.